Hello, everyone. We will get started shortly. I'm just going to invite our co host to join. She should be on momentarily. Hello.
Hey, that
How are
was
you
faster
tonight?
this time. I'm good. How are you?
Doing well.
Good. Happy Friday.
Yes, I know. It's hard to believe already.
Yes, yeah. And we've been under a lot of snow over here. So today it's like the first day of like really beautiful sunshine. So I'm really feeling the
Mm,
positive effects of this of the sun right now.
nice. Yeah, I went and spent some time outside today as well and sat in the sun for a while. We're supposed to get snow tomorrow, maybe. So just like
Mm.
figured I'd take advantage of it while I had it.
Yes, yeah, definitely. Yeah,
So
I
necessary.
Yes, so incredibly necessary.
Yeah.
Especially right now.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
So, our topic tonight, cultivating calm during chaos. And there's been
hmm
quite a lot of that going on lately and for the
hmm
last couple of years.
hmm Yeah, it's been a lot of transition and
Hmm.
tumultuous terrain and uncertainty and newness and
Yes.
yeah, just a lot of uncharted territory that we find ourselves in. And it
Yes.
feels like we're kind of at a peak right now
Hmm.
of so much. And so I think, you know, speaking to the moment right now in, just opening up a conversation around how we can um, how we can navigate the waters of what's 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 coming and
Hmm.
um, as well as, how we can allow ourselves to get settled with, also what's unfolded and what's unfolding right now,
Yes.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah, there is so much that's unfolding. And I think we are kind of at this peak right now, um, where we're really feeling it, not just in
Mm-hmm.
our own individual lives, but more and more as a collective and as a community. It's kind of the feeling of being in a boiling pot right now, and the
Mm-hmm.
water's really heating up. It's
Yeah.
uncomfortable. It can feel, very restrictive for our
Mm-hmm.
bodies as well as, you know, just our relationships, our lives. Um, a lot of people are having trouble sleeping right now and having bad dreams or very intense and vivid dreams that wake people up.
Mm-hmm.
There's just so many layers to how we're impacted when there's collective trauma taking place on a large scale and how that brings up so much uncertainty within us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been, one of the things I know that helps myself, and I feel like there's a greater conversation around this too, of like tuning out or taking time to tune out
Mm-hmm.
from just all of the like the narratives that are going on and the bombardment of information and really like just really hard disturbing
Mm-hmm.
things that we're watching unfold, right?
Yeah.
As well as just the reality that having connection to what's unfolding, right? Having
Mm-hmm.
connection to what is happening is also important, and it's like finding a balance between the two. And so one
Yes.
of the things for me is like I don't have television at home, and we've talked about that, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you start to move away from the distractions, right? And how you
Yep.
really create a space at a time that feels sacred, an environment that feels healthy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And but I go to the
So important.
gym.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so I go to the gym
Yeah, and the
almost every
TVs are
day.
on.
And
Mm-hmm.
that's yeah, there's like blaring, it's like however many
Mm-hmm.
televisions going on. And it's just like bombarded with a ton of information and a
Yeah.
ton of, just these um just tragic images of what's
Mm-hmm.
unfolding.
Mm-hmm.
And it's overwhelming. It's really overwhelming. And
Yeah.
there can be a desire to just like close it and tune it out, close it off,
Right.
not engage it because it feels really painful. And
Mm-hmm.
there's also an importance of like standing witness in a
Yes,
way
being a
that is,
witness.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that is engaged with just a connection to what is unfolding because it's
Mm-hmm.
important too.
Yep. Yes,
Um,
absolutely.
so
I
how
think
we,
that witness helps us detach to some degree
yeah,
and not feel so much the emotional overwhelm and
hmm
roller coaster of how it's being presented in the news. And in particular, watching the news is
hmm
very sensationalized. There is a lot of emotion on purpose to
hmm
elicit certain emotions so that you
hmm
continue to watch and you continue to feed into the cycles and the narrative and have all of those chemical responses of fear as a result of that.
hmm
So it is intentional to some degree for that. So it is okay to also, like you do at home, and disconnect from the news and not
hmm
watch it and know that it's perfectly okay to completely disconnect at times and not be involved and not know, while also just simply reading the news instead of watching it and seeing it in black and white. And, sometimes that can, help us continue to detach in a way that's not healthy of like, well, we just are pretending that these things aren't happening and we're kind of burying our head in the sand.
right,
But other times we do need that healthy separation. It's about balance and knowing that we can't ignore these collective problems. They do impact us on an individual level. But we also have to, our overwhelm, our exhaustion, our worry, and our crippling fear also doesn't help us show up lovingly in those moments of
hmm
chaos.
hmm
It just drains us
hmm
and it makes us really ineffective at being able to show up in a way that's meaningful when those moments are present.
yeah, incredibly so. And it's interesting, and that part about, like we don't bury our heads in the sand, basically.
Mm-hmm.
The sense of avoidance around it. And I think that's one of the most important things that to bring an awareness to is that there's a both and here. There's
Mm-hmm.
a recognition that that we do need to keep our well-being intact,
Mm-hmm.
and it's important to have connection to what's unfolding because it extends an opportunity to look at to look at things that are happening from a place of empowerment
Hmm.
versus that place of overwhelm.
Yes,
And
definitely.
and also just to give voice to, in the midst of chaos, like if you're going through loss or grief, right? Or what we're
Hmm.
watching collectively, we're watching a huge cycle of grief happening right now,
Hmm.
is, it's heartbreaking. And
It
that
is, yes.
heartbreak is really important to also witness and to not stifle, um,
Yes.
because it
To
is
not
such a,
suppress or move through quickly, force ourselves to
yes,
get through.
yeah, like
Hmm.
it's okay. And it's a good thing that we can feel connection to the heartbreak, or that our hearts are
Hmm.
breaking, because it's informing us of our care and
Hmm.
um
For a
our
different way.
desire to show up in a way that can have impact or make
Hmm.
impact.
Hmm.
um yeah, so I think this, finding calm amidst chaos is so much about, how do you return to your own power?
Hmm.
How do you allow yourself to feel powerful,
Yeah.
especially in a time or a space that may feel overwhelming or chaotic, or transition or loss that feels disempowering. Like, how can we remain in our power? And so
Hmm.
I know that we want to kind of chart through the ways that we can be reminded in how we are powerful versus disempowered.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know for me, one of the ways is remembering that my grief, the pain that I'm feeling is ultimately an expression of my love.
Okay.
It's my love for the world, it's my love for humanity, my love for people, and my deep desire for them not to suffer. Um, and looking for all of the love that's playing out in the world right now.
Mm-hmm.
In moments like this, I always remind myself that hate is very loud. It
Mm,
has to be in your face. It
mm-hmm.
has something to prove because it's not the normal, natural state of things.
Right.
And so it is much more aggressive. Love is not aggressive. Love is
Mm-hmm.
very quiet. Love doesn't
Mm-hmm.
have anything to prove. It is the natural state of things.
Mm-hmm.
So there are millions and billions collectively moments of love happening every single day, all day long,
Mm-hmm.
that we don't acknowledge, that we as a society don't broadcast. We're not sensationalizing those moments as much on the news. That's starting to get traction of positive news, websites and Instagrams and things like that,
Mm-hmm.
recognizing that we need to focus on the positive. But that's just been a trend in the last 2 to 5 years,
Right. Yeah.
more so in the last 2 years.
Right.
But it's not something that the news really sensationalizes. Positive stories. It doesn't
Right.
focus on the moments of like a single mom showing up for her kid's sports things, even though she has so many other things on her plate, just to
Mm-hmm.
support her kid, and how beautiful that is that even the sacrifices that she's making, she doesn't make that one. She's able
Right.
to show up. And acknowledging the other sacrifices that she has to make too, and
Mm-hmm.
celebrating those, and
Mm-hmm.
just remembering all of these moments of love that are quietly happening every single day that we don't always focus on. And that's
Yeah.
such a good reminder to me when times are hard, that there are these beautiful moments. There are so many good people out in the world. With the situation with Ukraine, so many people helping out and coming to each other's aid and offering free housing and booking Airbnbs that they're never going to stay in Ukraine to get money into people's pockets, and buying, artwork online that they're not asking to be shipped just to help people. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's truly tremendous, the response, and people not even, being fighting on the ground or anything like that, but people being able to be online and supporting Ukraine and being able to like take down websites and things like that. Like, it's pretty tremendous
Mm-hmm.
that that's one of the benefits of the social media age, how news is spreading and how quickly we can respond to these situations as a result of that. And so focusing on those moments helps me get through
Hmm.
those narratives.
Yeah, that's I think that's beautiful. And it's the consistency of staying attuned to what's possible.
Mm-hmm.
Um, as well as, recognizing that I think so often we tend to, I think a lot of the conversations that I hear, specifically around what's going on with the Ukraine is, there's always get into these conversations around, um, leadership and politics and
Mm-hmm.
um, sort of looking towards authority on what can be changed or what should be done.
Mm-hmm.
And so often the best thing we can do is to actually look towards ourselves and
Mm-hmm.
to see, in what way can I be, in
A
what way
leader.
can I, yeah, like in what way can I lead, but
Mm-hmm.
lead from that place of heart. Like what kind of
Mm-hmm.
positive action can I take today, right? That kind that to show up, in the antithesis of what's playing out right now, right? Like
Yes.
versus pointing outwardly, like looking outwardly for somebody to do something and like something to be done. It's like, can
Mm-hmm.
we bring it home to ourselves and
Yeah.
look and see like where is my power at? How can I be
Mm-hmm.
at cause right now in this moment? One, for myself, right? And
Yep.
and two, like what can I do that would have an impact? And that could be just reaching out to someone and just sharing like, hey, I'm feeling overloaded by this, or like how are you doing? And checking in on somebody else, right? Or like is if there's a way to um, like look for information, and for resources on ways that if you want to get involved with
Mm-hmm.
something, like what is one small way that you could get involved with helping to
Yep.
provide relief or assistance or whatever, right? It's like if
Mm-hmm.
we can, instead of going so outwardly where we're giving our power away or feeling
Yes.
helpless because we're giving our power away to for somebody to do something, like
Mm-hmm.
what
And
can we be at
kind of
cause?
spiraling.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Like how can we be at cause where we are right now? And
Mm-hmm.
and I think too, like we can get so caught up in these conversations, right? Because we do externalize so much of like what
Yep.
should be done out here.
Mm-hmm.
And that also it's just a drain that can keep us so incredibly disempowered.
Yeah.
Versus like always just coming right back here of like how can I be at cause where I am?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what
Yeah.
I often do for myself is like, all right, I know the answer is not out here because I have no control over that. And like whatever
Mm-hmm.
is happening out here is pretty disjointed and disconnected anyway. So it's like,
Yep.
like how can I bring it back to back right here? Um,
Mm-hmm.
and it really is that inner personal kind of leadership,
Yes.
versus the externalized
Mm-hmm.
leadership that's often so disempowering.
Yes, absolutely. I think for a lot of women who've experienced childhood trauma,
Hmm.
there's this kind of sense of like, even as adults, like, where are the adults? Like, who's going to do something about this?
Right.
Right? Like, looking around
Yeah.
and recognizing as children, like, yes, we needed that. We didn't
Hmm.
have sometimes, caretakers who could look out for us and hold space. And so there was like, wait, what's going on here? But as adults, when we still have that kind of response, it's important to remember that we are the ones now.
Hmm.
We we are the ones who have to lead our lives, and we have to be the ones in the driver's seat and not give our power away. Come back
Hmm.
to what is actually in our control and what we can do something about, and not spiral out of control.
Hmm.
Um, So often external chaos creates internal chaos. And we're disconnecting from what's happening in our body. We're disconnecting from our heart space,
Mm-hmm.
the source of love. And so we're disconnecting from our humanity and other people's humanity when we do that.
Mm-hmm.
We tend to try to intellectualize things because that helps us feel safe making sense of what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And while that can be helpful to some degree, there's nothing against that, we also have to make sure that we're still staying integrated with the rest of the body and
Right.
not just staying in this intellectual, kind of dissociated, disconnected state.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so often, I think the challenges are the disconnect from the head and the heart in our healing process and
Mm-hmm.
why we're not making process progress, excuse me,
Mm-hmm.
because we get so stuck in making sense of it, but we forget about everything that's happening in our
Yeah.
hearts and our bodies as a
Mm-hmm.
result of that. And so when there is a lot of chaos in the world, especially if you grew up in a chaotic household,
Environment.
it can feel like that's almost comfortable and safe to some degree. It's because it's so normal to you to experience that chaos that you're not always aware of what's happening in your body because it's so comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And your triggers and your trauma triggers from growing up are going to be activated.
Mm-hmm.
And you might not be aware because you're just used to being in that heightened state. So it's really important when there's a lot of chaos happening in the world to be checking in on our bodies and what's happening, what can I do to make sure there's peace inside my body, make sure there's calm inside my body, noticing where there is tension, whether it's in our heart space, whether it's in our throat, feeling like we can't speak up, we can't express how we're feeling about what's going on in the world, or we're afraid to because we're afraid of how somebody else might respond if they have a
Right.
different perspective or viewpoint,
Right.
whether it's in our stomach, just generally where we're holding our attention,
Mm-hmm.
um, checking in on that.
Yeah, that's so important. Yeah, that's such an important point about like not that we don't close ourselves down,
Mm-hmm.
in the midst of what's happening because it's I think that's a good point around, your personal self-expression or what feels right for you in showing up that there's ways that we can hide out because of
Mm-hmm.
just the fear that exists there and um it's like just the importance of how we tend to ourselves
Mm-hmm.
and allow ourselves the permission to show up in the ways that feel whole and I guess right sized to how
Yeah.
we want to show up. And everything about this piece around getting regulated in our own bodies, like regulating our systems. And
Mm-hmm.
I love when you were talking about this, the feeling of peace, like how we can bring in more peace and ease. And one of the things that I have been or that I find really powerful and that I have been really calling in for myself is like what are ways that I can tap into joy? Like how can I keep myself in a state that feels um alive, right? And that
Mm-hmm.
aliveness because what I find is that, like when we talk about peace, so often people equate peace with like just like this just like um I almost want to say like boredom. Like it can like you can feel like it might be kind of boring or like it's just like
Mm-hmm.
super calm or just very chill and like that's one way that peace can be. But I think the real centering of peace is that you're actually connected to a space that feels that does feel alive and so I think the ways that we stay in connection and attuned to, just like you said, to being connected to our heart are the things that keep us grounded in our love, right? So much of that are things that actually bring us joy or that make
Mm-hmm.
us feel alive. And so there can be, I just want to talk to like the guilt that I've heard expressed, right? Like,
Mm,
of like I'll be out with a friend and it's like, we're doing this fun thing, but it's like, oh, but there's all this stuff happening. It's like, yeah, that's even more of the reason why
to
we
be
should
connected
be
with each
doing,
other and
yeah, like we
having
should be
fun.
doing,
Hmm.
like fun, things because it's not that it minimizes what's happening, but it's that it's
Correct.
so important for us to stay on in a place that feels up because that's where we can feel most connected to our power than to feel
Yes.
disempowered in the grief and the trauma of it all, right?
Yes, absolutely. Continuing
So,
to, connect with what fills us up so that we can continue to stay full. And that's how we can help the vibration of the planet still stay
hmm
high and
yeah.
still hold that place of love.
hmm
And I love that you were talking about like peace as this like energy
hmm
because, we were talking about love earlier too. And I think so often we think love is like so soft and so sweet.
yeah,
And it is those things,
right. It can
but
be.
it's also tremendously fierce and powerful. And so peace
Very
can also be those things as
honest.
well
Yeah,
and
yeah.
honest. Yeah.
hmm
It's not always just pleasant love.
yes.
And so remembering that like we're dynamic humans. We're also souls.
hmm
And there's a human experience that's taking place and playing out in the world, and then there's soul understanding and wisdom of
hmm
what's taking place and what's happening in the world. And remembering that we can always tap into that soul wisdom
hmm
and knowing that our own soul has lived through transitional times, not just in this life, but in past lives,
hmm
and our ancestors have as well, that we can always call on our ancestors and connect to them, living ancestors and ancestors who have passed on,
hmm
always wanting to connect to our healthy and loving ancestors. Um, but knowing that they have wisdom to navigate these challenges and these times, they have themselves gone through them and
hmm
survived. And many of us have a tremendous amount of resiliency in our family lines if we look through our histories, our personal histories, our collective histories. And so remembering that we have those resources to turn to as well. Nature is also such a great gateway and portal when we are in these collective moments of grief, trying to
Yeah.
connect to our joy,
hmm
because nature has so many lessons that are applicable to these moments. One thing that always strikes me is the birds that are singing every single morning outside my window. They are completely unaware that there's a war going on somewhere in the world. They
Right.
continue to sing every
Right.
single day
hmm
as if it's a perfect, beautiful day. To them, it is.
hmm
And so, just a reminder that nature goes on, even when there are really big challenges happening in the world that affect us,
hmm
and that nature has seen so many things in time, and it continues to grow, and it continues to be resilient, and it continues to transform and change and evolve to, you know, make sense and to
hmm
thrive in this chaotic world that we live in.
Yeah.
It helps us have a space for the really big emotions that we experience in these times of chaos.
hmm Yeah, incredibly so. Yeah, in our so often because when we are kind of thrown about there is a forgetting. There is a forgetting that we
Mm-hmm.
have we carry the resiliency to get through.
Mm-hmm.
I think what is it? There's this like there's this saying of like you've already lived through your worst day,
Mm-hmm.
and you're still here. So it's like remembering um that there's always an opportunity to get to the other side. But I
Mm-hmm.
think when we're moving into, what you're saying as the soul's wisdom is that is like when we integrate an understanding or a deeper understanding of um that it's all necessary, that it all has a place, that
Hmm.
all of it is in informing informing us and allowing us the opportunity to exercise, right,
Hmm.
what we actually know,
Right.
um,
And
to
something new,
yeah, something new. Yeah.
a
To well, I was
desire
going
for
to say to
something
like
else.
create something new, right? Or to
Yeah,
have
exactly. Yep.
a different outcome or a different path
Hmm.
forward.
Yes.
Um, and yeah, so it's like how we do connect
Hmm.
to our own wisdom and the how we stay act or like how we are able to access our body's wisdom and the ways we're
Yeah.
able to access our wisdom is so much rooted in how we are able to to regulate our own nervous system and to stay
Hmm.
as connected as we can to self
Yeah.
versus getting caught up in the chaos, right? That's
Yep.
unfolding.
Yep. Absolutely. Oftentimes, when we dissociate, it's because what's happening in our body is uncomfortable.
Right.
And when we dissociate, outside of the
Hmm.
world, it's because what's happening in the world is
Right. So
uncomfortable.
uncomfortable.
And the more we can actually lean into that discomfort and say, well,
Hmm.
what's going on here? What is this discomfort about? What's
Hmm.
behind this discomfort?
Hmm.
And we get curious about it,
Hmm.
then it takes the threat of the discomfort away. And we're able to actually understand these sensations and recognize they're a normal response to being human.
Hmm.
That to feel sadness and grief about what's happening in the world is an appropriate response.
Hmm.
There's nothing wrong with that. And allowing ourselves to have appropriate emotions and be in communities where it's safe to express those emotions
Hmm.
is crucially important to our physical and emotional health as humans.
Hmm.
So being able to, connect to these moments and within ourselves, our sensations, the
Hmm.
tension that's there, the rapid heartbeat, the tightness, the migraines that might be coming up with the big emotions that are here.
Yeah.
It's just recognizing like, yes, you're feeling normal things in as a result of collective trauma in the
Trauma.
world.
Right. And it's hitting up against our own personal traumas.
Very much
Yeah.
so.
It's all
Mm-hmm.
just a mirror. And it's all such a beautiful opportunity in
Mm-hmm.
discovering the ways of which, like, again, we can find our own way to our own power, to how we can feel powerful where we're at.
Yeah.
Um, One of my mantras that I've been saying lately is that, I choose to be powerful in every
Mm-hmm.
moment because it's a choice,
Mm-hmm.
and like we've been talking about is, every in every way, shape, and form, how we find that power is really in the ways that we tend to ourselves first.
Yeah.
So, but it's very real. It's very real,
Mm-hmm.
and what we're all experiencing, what we've been experiencing, over these past God, like 2.5 years,
Mm-hmm.
particularly. It's just it's a lot that is stirring up and what's interesting too, Sarah, is like there's a way that we get acclimated,
Mm-hmm.
right, to the change as it's happening.
Yep.
Or there's a way where we get acclimated maybe to that things are not settled, like to what feels unsettled, right? That we
Mm-hmm.
find a way to get acclimated to that.
Right. We start to get used to
Um,
it and adjust.
yeah.
Which
Um,
that in and of itself shows our resiliency as humans.
right.
How
Yeah.
quickly we can do that.
Yes, that we can
Really,
adapt. Yeah,
yeah.
it's such a reminder that
Mm-hmm.
we are capable of adapting.
Mm-hmm.
And also it's like to not check out fully because it's
Yeah.
all so important. It's all
Mm-hmm.
happening. It's all happening for a really powerful reason, and that we yeah, if we can really allow ourselves to bring our own wisdom to it,
Mm-hmm.
that we don't.
get swept up in it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or get complete or become completely avoidant from what's happening.
hmm
And I
absolutely
can definitely
disconnected
see
from our
that
humanity.
avoidance. Yeah, I can definitely see that avoidance happening, right?
Hmm
Like, you know,
Yeah,
just the and I tend to find, you know, that specifically, you know, like I feel like sensitive, you know, those of us who are more sensitive, right?
hmm
Because our systems are more like do feel so greatly impacted.
right. We're very
That
attuned to the pain
right.
of the world.
Yeah,
Hmm
that avoidance thing can be really like a quick thing to do. And
Yeah.
it's not it's like it is one answer and it is
hmm
also not the only answer. Like there's a like
Right.
there is that balance that we can play. Yeah.
hmm
I just
Absolutely.
wanted to
Understanding
let you
that
know that.
avoidance can be healthy to a degree,
Yeah.
but it can't be the only way of life by
Right.
any means. We
Right.
And that's, I think, so much the problem with a lot of spirituality and a lot of like spiritual healers is there's such an avoidance and one, an escape of reality and kind of just wanting to live in this
Mm-hmm.
pink cloud kind of
Mm-hmm.
all the time and not actually be grounded in reality and what's happening
Mm-hmm.
on the roots of the
Right.
earth.
Yeah.
And that's something that I think makes me very different than most spiritual healers is
Mm-hmm.
that I'm very grounded in I'm here to help humanity. I'm here to hold space for people in a large way. Um, and remembering that we have to be paying attention to what's going on. We can't just be ignoring it and pretending that everything is fine simply because we want it to be and we want to live in sometimes the kind of make believe illusion.
Right. Yeah, that like so much of our own presence is the answer to it, you know, is the answer
Hmm
to all of it.
Yes,
Um,
not escaping it or running from it.
yeah, like it's all here. It's like all here for our own healing and
Hmm
our, you know, and for the collective healing. And
Yeah,
that I mean it's I mean if you really tap into that, like I mean that is such a powerful
truth.
place, you know, truth to carry is to know like
Hmm
you're part of this collective healing here and
hmm
how you are at cause for yourself and how you choose to show up in it that is you know very much grounded and rooted right
hmm
in who you are and what and the heart that you have to offer and extend in times like
hmm
this like
Yeah.
that is really the key and
hmm
really the source of power to
Yeah,
touch into.
absolutely. I think, what is playing out is very much for collective healing right now.
Hmm.
As scary as it is, as tumultuous as it is, and as much as I don't want there to be war and suffering by any means,
Right. Yeah, sure.
there's what is happening is showing two different kinds of energies right now that
Mm,
Putin and who he is representing a very old masculine like patriarchal energy
hmm.
that is not the consciousness that
Right.
we're in anymore.
Hmm.
It's we
Or
don't
where we're
need
headed.
violence when we have voices.
Right.
Whereas Zelensky is showing up as a real leader for his people right now, and he's a man in the world, but he's talking about peace and he's standing for peace, and he's talking about the children in his country and
Hmm.
how they're being affected by this.
Hmm.
This is very different conversations and discussions as a world leader
Hmm.
than we've
Than
ever
we've had.
seen
It's true.
before, we've ever
It's
had.
very true. Yeah.
That he is really standing for peace in a collective way
Yeah.
that we haven't seen. And
Right.
he's asking for other countries to also stand for peace and to
Right.
support them in their desire for peace in their own
Hmm.
country.
Hmm.
He's showing the world what a real leader looks like.
Yeah.
He is very connected to both his masculine and divine selves.
Hmm.
And we're seeing that. We're seeing his real compassion and conviction both present in him right now.
Hmm.
And we're seeing this energy that Putin represents stumbling and crumbling and not doing so well.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a collective message
Mm-hmm.
of what's happening in the world, that this kind of energy is falling and it
Mm-hmm.
isn't going to be the future so much anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And just being able to hold this truth as we, watch these things and we play the witness and observe things unfolding.
Mm-hmm. So true. Yeah. It's all an opportunity, all of it.
Mm-hmm. An opportunity to heal and face this energy of war and
Mm-hmm.
just the tremendous infliction of pain, physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, energetic, on our planet.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's just not sustainable in any circumstance. It's
Right.
not the energy of the future or the present as we're seeing.
Right. Yeah, we are where we're headed, right?
Mm-hmm.
As we're moving away from these or falling away from these old constructs,
Mm-hmm.
that it does require us to get very much connected to our heart. And
Yes.
that's why I think these larger things are happening at the level of the collective together,
Mm-hmm.
because we're all being called to how we can be embodied in a different way, and how we can
Yes.
move forward in a different way that is rooted in our heart, and that is
Mm-hmm.
empowered in who we are, um,
Yeah. Our
that is
collective
not,
oneness,
yeah, not
our
rooted
collective humanity,
in this sense of individualization. Yeah.
and oppression.
Yeah, exactly.
This energy of conquering over and not collaborating
Dominion
with.
over. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
The energy that we're moving towards is collaboration,
Right.
connection,
Co
community,
cooperation. Yeah.
cooperation. Yeah.
Yeah.
hmm
Yeah.
There's
It's
so many good C words in healing. Compassion,
yeah.
connection.
Connection being my favorite words. Yeah,
Yeah.
community.
hmm
Um,
So
yeah,
much
what
about how we connect to ourselves right now. Ourselves, each other, our emotions, our bodies. It really is so much about the connection.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. Um, what else can we um bring to this around finding calm in the midst of chaos? Like we've talked about tending to yourself and the reminder of your own wisdom,
hmm
and um, inciting curiosity and playing with that,
hmm
and awareness, having a greater awareness.
Yep.
I do really find it powerful to remember, or to really, when we talk about leadership, so often we externalize leadership, right? Like,
hmm
or we have some sort of concept of like what it is to be a leader, but actually what it is to lead is really like central to who you are, and to every single person. Like, no matter
Yeah.
where we are, we're always leading. Always. Doesn't matter
hmm
where you are. If you're at home, you're leading your household. You are influencing people around you. You are leading everywhere. And so
hmm
to just be reminded of your own leadership, because just even stepping into that
Yeah.
can make you feel a state that feels more empowered versus disempowered, you
hmm
know?
Yep.
Um, yeah, what else, Sarah?
Honestly, I would just like to take a moment to just kind of all breathe together.
Mm,
Because I think so many people are probably holding their breath right now, just being in this collective tension and tightness. And I'd like to
mm-hmm,
just hold space for
mm-hmm.
whoever is with us right now to be able to
Yeah.
just take a couple moments to
Mm-hmm.
collectively breathe together. So if that would be okay to just walk people through.
Yeah.
Okay. So for whoever's watching, if you want to just close your eyes and listen to the sound of my voice. Taking a deep breath in through your nose and breathing out as slowly as possible, as if you are blowing a kiss through your mouth, or as if you're blowing through a straw. We're going to do that together 4 times. So breathing in through your nose, breathing out through your mouth as slowly as possible. And as you do that, just check in with your jaw and see if you can't lighten it and loosen some of the tension there. See if you can't drop your shoulders. Breathing in through your nose, breathing out through your mouth. Noticing how your belly drops as you breathe in and you breathe out. Noticing how it expands. Breathing in through your nose. Breathing out through your mouth. And imagining this breath going to your heart center. Imagining a cool, calming color collecting in that space. One last time, breathing in through your nose. Breathing out through your mouth. Imagining that color in your body, in your heart space, extending all the way out to the rest of your body, into your shoulders, into your stomach, into your arms, your fingers. Imagining that soothing color coming down into your legs, into your feet, coming into your throat, into your head, filling your body up completely with peace, with calm, feeling your feet on the ground, your back against the chair that you're sitting in, the couch that you're on, feeling how you connect to whatever it is you're sitting on, feeling how you are supported in this moment by that thing, feeling the power of this present moment, feeling the power of your heart beating within you, feeling your breath in your body, knowing everything operates without you having to think about it, just having gratitude for the miracle that that is, for the miracle that this present moment is. When you feel ready, opening your eyes, coming back into this space, and just putting your focus on something that is calming to you, that feels nice to look at as you come back into this moment. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight. I hope that was helpful in just bringing you back to that inner power, that inner peace that can always exist no matter what is happening outside of us.
Mm-hmm. Just coming back to your breath. Beautiful. Thank you,
Mm-hmm.
Sarah.
Yeah, of course. My
I'll
pleasure.
see you on the next episode of Authentic Alchemy.
Yes.
Take care and tend to yourselves.
Yes. Thank you so much. We both hope you have a wonderful night. Bye.
Bye.